city meets the farm. The Great Rice County Fair. We'll see you there.
It's Rice County Fair Talk out of Minnesota with John Dvorak of the Rice County Fair. Fair Talk is brought to you by Tim's Trucking, Rice County Mutual, Monte Creasy Electric, Towns Lock and Key, Keller Insurance Agency, Dr. David Garley, State Bank of Faribault, Faribault Foods, and the IBEW Local Union 110. Now here's your host, Jerry Grosskreutz.
Along with John Dvorak, the manager of the Rice County Fair. Oh boy, we're down to just over a month.
We are. 5 weeks and counting, coming quick. It's going to be here before you know it, and I guess we'll take it when it gets here.
Well, things are looking pretty nice out at the fairgrounds. This rain should really green up the lawns again.
It should. I mean, I'm sure it will. You know, it was getting pretty hot there, and the grass was getting a little bit brown in spots, but I'm sure with this nice drink of water it got yesterday, it sure should help. And, you get what you get. And
take it as it comes.
That's right. That's right. You know, I put my order in, but whether or not it'll get fulfilled or not, that remains to be seen.
I try and help you out with put my order in the hotline to the top, but mine's been short-circuited for a number of years. So. We should mention after the market break, we're going to have a special guest on the phone.
We are. We're going to have Dr. Linda Glazer. She's a veterinarian with the Minnesota Animal Board of Health, and we're just going to be talking a little bit about, last year we had some pretty hot weather, and so we're going to be talking about that, what we do with the animals and how the animals are taken care of, and so just to inform fairgoers, what goes on there, and then other infectious diseases that maybe we should be worried about, and what we do to control it, and why we do things the way we do it. So I think it's going to be an interesting segment this morning with her.
And maybe some proper procedures on what you should do when you leave the livestock barns. Those of us that have been around critters our whole life, we've probably been exposed to so many of these things that are common organisms that these animals have. And, well, if you haven't been exposed to them, maybe it could be an issue. So,
well, and that's right, and you have to realize that, these animals that come to the fair, there's a whole different way that they're taken care of versus your pet that you keep in the house, your dog that's in the house all the time and that you take out. These animals are out in the elements all the time. So they're kind of used to the weather swings that we have where you have pets in the house and they're in the house all the time. Yeah, it's a little bit tougher on those animals when they go outside versus being outside all the time.
So Dr. Glazer will join us after the market break, and we'll go over that. And we only have about a minute and a half before a market break. Any big changes or hot news, last-minute arrangements that have been organized for the Rice County Fair this year?
No, everything is pretty much on track. Our premium books are hopefully going to print this week, and we'll have them out early next week is our goal. People will be able to see what's going on the fair, and there we'll get posters out and start advertising around town. I usually start to hit that, after Heritage Days. I don't want to kind of conflict with Heritage Days and step in on their time. So that's this weekend, and after this weekend, we'll hit it pretty hard. We'll have our Passport Fun tickets will be out at the stores. We'll have them this year at Hy-Vee, and also another new store that's going to be carrying them is Fairway Foods here in Faribault. So we got another new sponsor and somebody that was willing to take on selling these tickets. So now there'll be two stores that, and they'll be at the Rice County Fairgrounds office also. So they'll be on sale, and for $45,
ride till you drop.
Ride till you drop is right, and so it's a good deal. And I hope people come out and buy them for their kids, and the kids come out and buy them, and have a great time riding the rides at the fair.
Does the fair manager go on all the rides? I mean, you have to check out each ride, don't you?
That's one duty that I pass off. They say you have to delegate, and that's definitely one that I delegate.
Delegate to a younger crew.
That's right.
Hey, John, if you can stand by, we have to take a break for the markets, and then Dr. Glazer will join us after that from the Minnesota Board of Animal Health. But first, here's a market update sponsored by the KDHL Agro Boosters.
In the early going on Tuesday, soybeans, corn.
Welcome back to today's AM Minnesota program, Fair Talk 2017, the Rice County Fair, only 5 weeks away. John Dvorak, the Rice County Fair manager, is in studio. John, we do have our special guest on the line.
We do, and I want to welcome Dr. Linda Glazer. She's with the Animal Board of Health, and I'm glad that we can have her on and that she could take time out of her busy day to talk with us.
Well, good morning, Linda.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm happy to be on with you today.
Tell us first, Linda, a bit about yourself, how you developed your love for animals, and where you did your undergraduate, where you went to vet school.
Well, I grew up in Minnesota, and I wanted to sort of be a veterinarian when I was very young. Didn't think about it till I got older, and thought about it as a path, and was really loved biology in my undergraduate, which I did here in Minnesota, and then got into veterinary school at the University of Minnesota. So I graduated a little while ago, but I've had a career. I did some private practice work for a while, and then I've worked primarily sort of focusing on those population perspective in veterinary medicine for most of my career. And part of that focus has been infectious disease and kind of thinking about how disease moves around in animals and how you can impact it at a population level. So that's a little different than maybe other veterinarians, but I've really enjoyed my work, and it's been really interesting. I've been working at the Board of Animal Health for a little over 12 years now, and have had a chance to do a number of different things and be involved in a lot of the work the board does, and it's been really rewarding and very interesting work as well.
I know the Minnesota Board of Animal Health always likes to get staff members, veterinarians that have some experience in the private world. So they've worked with livestock producers and pet owners, so they kind of understand that side of it when you move over into the realm of the Minnesota Board of Animal Health.
Right, and I was in private practice when I got out of veterinary school. I did some work in my undergraduate, but not in the traditional veterinary clinic sense, working with other animal populations, zoos and wildlife and things like that. So I have but once I got out of in veterinary medicine, I worked in private practice for a number of years before going over to the government side, I guess.
Well, John has the attitude here at the Rice County Fair, and I think a lot of county fairs have the same attitude, that this is a great opportunity to tell our story of agriculture at county fairs, and livestock and 4-H and all the open class shows. That's a big part of it, isn't it, John?
That's right. It is a big part of it, and we can come out and these individuals that bring their livestock into the fair, they can just show, what they do and what goes on taking care of these animals, and that's something I think that's important for people to know, that these animals are well taken care of, not just at the fair, but when they go home too, because what they do at the fair is what they practice at home, and that's their livelihood, and they're not going to do anything to deter what happens to their livelihood, and what a better way to show it off than at the fair, and make people understand that we're here doing good and we're not harming the animals.
But yeah, Linda, there is some things that fairgoers should do, or procedures they should follow when they do visit those livestock barns, and maybe pet the animals or let the calves suck their fingers. Well,
I think the fair is a great way for people to get up close to some of the farm animals we have in Minnesota, and where they wouldn't have that opportunity any other way. And so this allows people that, may not have grown up on farms or certainly be living on farms now to kind of get up close and observe these animals kind of doing what they do on an everyday basis. And, of course, it's a different environment than when they're on the farm. But I think this is something that, is really important for the people that aren't in agriculture to see these animals and see what they're like and how people handle and manage them, and I think that's really valuable. But the board does have some requirements, because this is what we call a livestock concentration point. So it's one of the times that animals from all different areas, different farms, different places in the state, even other states, at the state fair, all come together and kind of commingle in a sense. They may, when they're in the ring, they could be moving around in the same area. They're in close contact. So we want to make sure that the animals are healthy and they're being taken care of at this point, where they all come together. And so that's really the point of the rules that we've developed at the Board of Animal Health for monitoring animals while they're at county fairs.
Well, when you talk about biosecurity that so many livestock producers talk about, we're kind of violating some of the basic rules of biosecurity when we take an animal to the county fair.
Right. So we have to weigh that advantage. I think it's so important for people to see them and for the people that are in agriculture to have that opportunity to practice managing their animals and showing them. But then, what can we do to keep them safe from that point of, you're bringing animals together that have a lot of different, have been in different places. We want to make sure they don't have contagious, infectious, transmissible diseases that then they pass around to all the other animals, because that's the risk of bringing them together like
How
that.
does the procedure work, Linda? Back when I was a 4-H member showing livestock a few decades back, the veterinarian had to observe the animal, check it out. I remember one year I had an animal I was really looking forward to showing, and a couple of weeks before the fair ended up with a wart. The animal, or not a wart, what's a ringworm?
Ringworm, right?
Yep, and the animal got to stay home. She didn't get to go to the fair.
Right, and that's one of the things. So the official veterinarian is something that is someone that is appointed by the fair manager, agrees to follow the rules of the fair, which also include our exhibition rules and our Board of Animal Health rules. And so that emphasis is on making sure the animals are healthy before they get to the fair. So really examining the animals. And, one of those things that's highly contagious is ringworm. It's a fungus, and it can, it can transmit between animals in a situation like a fair. So looking at the animals, making sure they don't have infectious or communicable diseases, and then, the disappointing part of that is sending them home if they do, because we don't want to risk infecting the larger group of animals there, because of that one animal that, has an infectious problem or disease.
Well, Linda, if I could chime in here, that's one of the advantages that we have with, being a fair board manager, and the fair board managers have. It's great to be able to work with the Minnesota Animal Board of Health, because what people need to understand is we actually have to apply for a permit for the livestock to come from a permit from the Minnesota Animal Board of Health, and we fill that permit out, and on that permit, we specify, who's going to be our veterinarian, what company's going to be the veterinarian, who the actual veterinarian is going to be.
Who's going to be on site then, too?
Exactly so that individual is on site, and so, we have a great partnership, I believe, with the Minnesota Board of Animal Health, because, we can turn to them when we have a problem, and they're there to help us out, and we all work together. The vet that we have hired is through Faribault Vet Clinic. Dr. Jesse comes out, and then he works with us, and, there's sometimes when there's an animal that does come to the fair, and he does get sick at the fair, and probably does have to go home, but those are one of life's lessons. That's all part of the learning process of what goes on when you do this and when you exhibit these animals, because you don't want to take that risk of the animal getting sick and passing that on to another animal, or worst case scenario, it being passed on to a human.
Right, and we do have staff, employees of the Board of Animal Health, and actually our kind of sister agency with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. They're working around the state of Minnesota. They work out of their homes, but they try to get to the fairs too and just be a point of contact representing the board to, if there's any questions, because a lot of, these rules are written, and then how do you apply them, and sometimes it's not always clear. So we try to have our, some of our staff in the field try to get to all the fairs and make sure, if there's any questions or if things aren't clear, or just working with that official veterinarian as well to make sure they understand what the board needs them to do and that everything's going okay at the fair.
Or like last year, the Rice County Fair veterinarian. It was so miserably hot and humid that he was visiting with the parents and the kids of the 4-H projects and making a determination that if they thought the animals would be more comfortable, cooler at home, they could go home. Remember that? I mean, there again, it was the Fair Board veterinarian that was watching out for the health and the well-being of the animals at the fair.
Right, and that's one of the it's a different environment. The animals are different. There's different things going on. There's a little bit of stress. Then you're bringing all the animals together. I mean, the veterinarian's the one there that can make an assessment. Is that animal doing okay in this environment, or do we need to make changes? So that's another part of what their role is when they're there, certainly.
Linda, can you stand by? We have to take about a 2.5-minute break. Can you continue on then? Because we should talk about hand washing and some of the things that fairgoers should be accountable for, too, to do their part, right?
Sure.
All right, stand by. We'll hear from some of our great sponsors, and then we'll continue with today's AM Minnesota.
Providing medical and surgical care as well as animal dentistry for large and small animals, Dr. David Garley is your Northfield veterinarian. Emergency services and animal boarding are available. Dr. David Garley can be reached at 507-645-5327. See him at his office at 512 Division Street in Northfield or online at northfieldvet.com. Dr. David Garley takes this time to thank all of his customers for their trust in business and wishes you and your pets and animals the best of health.
Hi, I'm JC, a Rice County dairy maid. I am proud to raise my glass of milk to all dairy farmers during June Dairy Month. On behalf of many others, I realize this is a 365-day-a-year job and salute all your hard work and dedication.
Castle Rock Bank, with locations in Castle Rock and Farmington, is a locally owned community bank which has always represented the agribusiness community for over 100 years. That's the spirit of community pride. Proud to recognize dairy farmers and agriculture and its importance. Member FDIC.
Peace of mind is a powerful thing. That's why it's crucial your buildings are properly insured when severe weather strikes or a fire breaks out. Rice County Mutual in Faribault has been protecting people like you for over 100 years. Call Office Manager Robin Hurley at 334-8145 for competitive quotes and any questions. Protect what's valuable to you with the proper insurance coverage. Everyone at Rice County Mutual in Faribault takes this time to salute all those individuals involved in this year's Rice County Fair. Today's youngsters are tomorrow's leaders. Faribault Foods started in 1895 as a vegetable company. They were known for small-sized, juicy corn kernels, tiny peas, and a willingness to do everything they could to please their customers. Today's product line includes canned vegetables, sauce beans, refried beans, baked beans, kids and family-style pasta and sauce, soup, chili, organic, and Mexican specialties, to nectars. Faribault Foods is innovative, offering products and packaging that meet today's marketplace styles. Since 1895, from their table to yours, Faribault Foods.
Welcome back to today's AM Minnesota program. Rice County Fair Manager John Dvorak is in studio. Dr. Linda Glazer, DVM, veterinarian with the Minnesota Board of Animal Health, is on the line. Should have asked you this earlier. It's okay to call you Linda, isn't it?
Oh, certainly.
Well, we mentioned before, or the first segment, that this is an opportunity for folks that haven't been around livestock to be closer to livestock, see how they're taking care of at county fairs. But there's always a question in the back of your mind about proper procedures, things that they should do, because we don't want people to get sick at a county fair either.
Sure, and we work with our partner, the Minnesota Department of Health, on that too. Farm animals have, there's things that come with it, and being in a barn, you want to make sure that when you're there, you're looking at the animals, certainly taking it all in, but then you want to make sure, if you're eating at the fair and working, that your hands are clean when things are going back into your mouth. Is kind of the gist of it. So we work with the Department of Health to kind of outline the recommendations for certainly going into the barns, but then once you're leaving, you want to wash your hands or use the hand sanitizer to keep your hands clean, get your hands clean, make sure you're not taking anything with you from the barn, back out, and you'd be, then handling food or getting your hands basically to your mouth. So that's something that we work with the Department of Health and try to stress that, people are conscious of. especially with younger children in the barns, and that's certainly a point that we want to make sure they're aware of.
It can be an issue too, can it, Linda? That I was raised on a dairy farm. I was a dairy farmer. I'd be milking cows in the parlor, and I'd be eating a sandwich. Well, I was around it my whole life. I was maybe exposed to some of the common organisms that maybe could make ordinary people sick, but I've been around it all my life. I might have the immunity to it.
Right. There's something to be said for that. You're out in the barns every day, and there's animal dander, and there's things that get aerosolized that your body's then mounting an immune response, and your body's kind of working on, has been used to that exposure, whereas people that haven't been around livestock or in barns on farms, their immune system has a different history. So that certainly can play a role in it.
I had a coffee cup in the milking parlor sitting on a little hot plate. Sometimes cows would do what cows do, and I'm sure some of that. but I was used to it. And so the key is then when you go into the barns, maybe don't be eating anything, and when you leave, then the wash stations, and John, I know there's wash stations all over right outside those livestock barns.
There are. We try to have as many wash stations available that we can. We monitor them, make sure there's water is running there all the time, that there's soap there, and that there's paper towels there to dry their hands. And most of our hand washing stations are running water. And correct me if I'm wrong, Linda, but I've been told that you want to rub your hands, and it's the friction that actually sloughs off the germs that are on your hand, and it's better to wash your hands than to use the aerosol canisters.
Well, soap and water is a great thing, and has changed, human beings' lives around the world. So I think that's, the best thing you can use is using the soap and the water and the physical, actual scrubbing your hands with the soap and rinsing them off. And it's that, we probably don't even recognize how many times our hands get to our mouth, but that's the point where the germs and the bacteria can be transmitted and can cause problems. So if we can just be more aware of it and, take those opportunities to wash our hands, and certainly the barns on the fair are not the only place where we can pick up something on our hands and, it'll be a problem if it gets to our mouth. So
maybe if you're going to have that treat or go somewhere to eat, then wash your hands again before you're going into one of the food vendors.
Sure. Yep. That's all great ideas, and certainly great thoughts for keeping keeping yourself healthy.
What's the song? Was it "Row, Row, Row Your Boat" or something? You're supposed to wash your hands and rub them with the soap and sing this tune. So then you wash your hands. I remember reading some song that we'd all recognize.
Maybe you need a recording of that by those the washing stations.
Yeah,
everybody could kind of time their wash with that.
Yeah, push the button, and then you can listen to that. You rub your hands.
Right. Start when the song starts, and then keep going till it ends. Right?
Because there are there are some organisms and bacteria that are commonplace in animals. That doesn't mean they aren't healthy, but it's something that maybe could cause you harm, right?
Well, there's bacteria that livestock may have, and our immune systems aren't, geared to or haven't been exposed to it, and they certainly they can, can make people ill. So there's, there's things like that. In the environment in a lot of different areas, certainly.
Are there really many diseases, though, that livestock can get, that humans can get, that we need to be concerned about? What's a fancy term for zoonosis? Is that the term?
Right. Those are the kind of illnesses that might transmit from an animal to people. And most, what we're concerned about is the diseases that are being passed between the animals. I mean, that's one group of them. Certainly there are some of those that then if people got close enough to the animals, they could potentially get something from them. So, you have to look at both those aspects. But there's some illnesses that animals get that they just pass between themselves. And we don't want that to happen at the fair either.
So, Linda, I guess, that's the main reason why, the Animal Board of Health and the county fairs and the local veterinarians that are hired by the county fairs to oversee the animals, that's the working relation that they have, to help prevent these situations from happening, and people need to rest assured that these animals are all inspected when they come off the trailer and before they're allowed to stay at the fair. All these animals, the veterinarian checks them all over, and if he sees a problem with any of these animals, either they're quarantined or they're sent home. And unfortunately, at our county fair, we don't have a facility to quarantine the animals, so they have to go home. And like I said, those are one of life's lessons, and you don't like to see that, and very seldom does it happen. But, people need to realize that this is a process that goes on, and behind the scenes, it goes on every time an animal comes to our fair. Right.
And I guess I'd also like to mention that part of that tracking that and knowing which animals are, which farmer or producer's animals is that identification tag in their ear. And, we also are looking at that, how the animals are identified and making sure that we know which animal belongs to which producer, because if there were a disease problem, we need to know that, and we need to be able to monitor that. And let's say there was an illness, we may have to go back to the farm and see if there's anything happening at that farm level that we need to address as well. So that's one of the main reasons we have those identification tags in the ear, is so that we know specifically that animal, who it belongs to, and we can track that, when they all come together in this sort of exhibition like a county fair.
Well, Linda, we've already run out of time and run into the news, but you had important things to say. So, by the way, just got a text. The song to sing, washing your hands, the ABCs.
That's kind of tough for you, ain't it, Jerry?
Ouch! Thanks for taking some time to visit with the folks on how these animals are taken care of at county fairs, Linda.
All righty. Well, thanks very much. I enjoyed talking with you.
And, John, we'll look forward to talking to you next week for Rice County Fair Talk 2017.
I'll be here.
And here's news from ABC, already in progress.
Cosby even cracked a smile, a relaxed atmosphere on a day that could end with him behind bars. Brad Milkey, ABC News, Norristown, Pennsylvania.
You're listening to ABC News.
Running low on the stuff you need? Time for a Target run. This week, Scott and Cottonelle bath tissue and giant rolls of Viva paper towels are on sale for $9.99 each. Need something for your morning mug? K-Cups for